Hi, this is Paula Gloria, and this show's called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. We've just had a historic moment in the Ulster County Courthouse, and Daniel, excuse me, Daniel, and Daniel is talking right now to Jay Debberman, and Jay is the standby counsel. Is that what you're called, Dennis?
Yes, standby counsel to Joe Barton.
Okay, so what we want to talk about is what just happened. Can I have both of you standing there? My understanding is, Jay, we had a void plea, but it wasn't recognized. Can you talk about and show the paper of prosecutorial misconduct, which I believe is in there? Okay, and who wants to speak first about what happened?
Off the record, actually, basically what happened, he just gave us a decision.
We can't say off the record because this is going to be on television. Okay. People are very curious. The decision was that he did not dismiss it on jurisdictional grounds. He is considering whether or not he's going to allow them to withdraw the plea, and that is forthcoming on the 25th. At that point in time, depending upon his decision, we'll go forward either with an appeal or a withdrawal. What struck my attention was saying that a legislature should not be questioned by the judiciary system. I thought checks and balances was all about that. So Joe Barton kept saying that he was looking to the court to protect his constitutional rights.
Right.
And although the judge went on talking about how he upholds the Constitution, what we want to see is some evidence of protecting rights, which I feel Jay feels he didn't get.
Here comes Joe now.
Oh, okay.
He, that's not running, is it?
It's running, yeah.
Oh, what the judge is saying, that he's done his job. Now it's up to the appellate court to further decide whether or not there is jurisdiction, is not jurisdiction.
So do you feel that the court is upholding people's rights and that it's constitutional? Or
I mean, at this point in time, I think they are, to the effect that he still has remedies. Those remedies are appellate remedies, depending on the decision.
Posar, my friend who's an activist on cameras in the court, says that when a judge says take it up on appeal, that he often is not within his legal right to say take it up on appeal. But I want to show these transcripts to him because it seems as though I got a more lengthy response to my motion for cameras in the court than Jay got for this very clear, the prosecutor failed to vacate the void plea, which is, yeah. I mean, does anyone want to read that out?
That's the new one.
It's not much of an answer.
I don't believe we got a fair trial at all. You know, but he has tied our hands. This judge, he refused to say it, but you should have been in the well with us to advise us. You know, hybrid counsel, that's bullshit. That was, the prosecutor kept saying hybrid, hybrid, and then he came back with hybrid, which makes me believe that they were in collusion. You know, I don't believe that in any way that we've had a fair hearing here. You know, every motion that we've made, even when we were citing Supreme Court rulings, they ignored that. They just ignored that.
But Jay, don't you think that when the judge says it's not up to him to question a law, whether it's judiciary, executive, or legislative, we need somebody to start leading the way, to change, to make the big changes that are needed? Where does it start? How do you set that example? And what are you talking about?
I think you've set the example by starting here, and it's up to either party, either the legislature, the judge, the attorneys, whomever, to start the process, to question. And then your questions go step by step by step.
Now, he implied that an appellate court may say that a law is okay, and he, as a judge, he doesn't agree with it. He seemed to leave the door open that he's paying attention to the scientific research that, for example, that cannabis is beneficial.
Yes.
How do you start changing that paradigm, and how do we all work together to cooperate for that?
Just like you're doing with your movement.
What's the movement?
The movement is as far as collecting people to get together to go ahead and try and knock out the statute.
And so then when the movement's collected together, do they collect together and work to the legislature or to the judiciary?
Basically,
by showing up in court and
understanding,
listening, paying attention, and
that's
putting
a
it on
start.
TV.
That's a start, but yes, by going to the legislature. That's the only place it can be changed. It can be changed by case law, depending upon what the decision is on the lower level.
Right. You don't agree with that, do you, Jay? When you talk about he said it.
He said what he's saying is we can take the process further. If this judge is going to do what he's going to do, but we have a right to appeal it, and it's all got to be worked out in the courts. That's basically what's going to happen.
As one of the checks and balances, that a legislature can't just push through a law that's not constitutional. Even its own arguments saying little harm or no harm, and now we're seeing we're even beyond harm. We're all the way to cure to some of the most deadly diseases. The law, you can see, if a court upholds logic, the law itself and its justification is not logical.
I agree with that statement, yeah.
So how do we work now, assuming that by this case dragging on,
stay on him.
Well, you have to work your way through this case first to get some hard decisions.
How would you like to work your way through this case?
Well, contrary to Joe's feelings, I would like to have tried the case myself. I think I could have got the point across and gone farther into it.
Go to trial.
Yeah.
Is there any chance for that?
Joe wanted to try the case by himself.
Without Jay?
No, without...
As a sovereign human being.
He wants to be his own attorney.
Right.
Authorize any criminal penalties being imposed until they prove jurisdiction, at least.
And he understood that. He acknowledged that straight away. Do you want to read on what the judge said? Jay, can you read it out loud?
Oh. This is by Judge Williams.
Decision in order.
Decisions in order. By notice of motion dated July 26, 2010, the defendants Joseph Barton and Jay Debberman move for a judgment declaring this court and the district attorney office lack jurisdiction over them for dismissal of all charges. The defendants' contentions will be addressed below. Availability of declaratory judgment. A declaratory judgment may only be brought in Supreme Court.
Declaratory.
CPLR 3001. Sorens versus El Daro Realty, Inc. And also matters of Vocala versus Schilling. Accordingly, this court is without jurisdiction to entertain this motion, and alternative, the court holds as following. Jurisdiction of prosecutorial dismissal of indictment. Defendant's assertion as to the prosecutorial's lack of jurisdiction and their grounds for dismissal of the charges rests entirely upon an allegation of illegal search and seizure. However, this issue has been waived by their guilty plea. Jurisdiction of the court. This court has previously ruled on this issue, as this court previously decided since the grand jury returned a valid and sufficient indictment. This court has acquired jurisdiction to try the defendants for specific crimes set forth therein. Defendant's motion in all respect denied. The foregoing constitutes both decision and orders of this court. Basically, it's a scam.
August 6th.
It came out during the suppression hearing that they didn't have jurisdiction. And the suppression hearing was already had. They should have suppressed the evidence because it was obtained illegally.
Okay, you're on.
Hello, New York City. This is Colia Clark. I'm standing in for Paula Peoples, producer of Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. And today you will be farther down the rabbit hole with me and my guest, Ashanti the Miracle Worker. So please Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you about is urgent, extremely urgent. And the urgency is that on August the 6th at Kingston, New York, we had a real violation of human rights. A brother named Joe Barton was working with a cancer patient, treating a cancer patient with hemp oil. I know when I say hemp oil, the hair stands on the head because in America we have made something as simple as hemp oil, a medical treatment for cancer, into a real live rattlesnake. Well, it's not a rattlesnake. And in that building that day, with Joe Barton with his cancer patient, the police broke in. They broke in to arrest Joe Barton. They didn't give a hill of beans about the fact that he was there with the patients. So we have to ask, what were the patient's rights? What were Joe Barton's rights? And what indeed was the issue? Shanti, would you please begin to fill us in on what's happening with Joe Barton and the issue of hemp oil?
That was a beautiful summary, really, really a beautiful summary, Colia. The general idea is to have an appreciation for the way that we're handicapped in being able to use a medically established cure for cancer. Well over 1,000 people have had this cure. And yet, people like Joe Barton, who is willing to risk his freedom to have the law changed, is being treated without his sovereign rights. You know about sovereign rights,
Yes, about sovereign rights. Well, hold on a minute. I want you to talk with me a bit. Who is Joe Barton?
Joe Barton is an extraordinary man who has uncovered, discovered, and promulgated the use of medical marijuana, defying the fact that it's illegal to use a substance which, since time immemorial, has been used. 5,000 years it's been around, hemp, for curing varying diseases. And he has been incarcerated for years on occasion, on more than one, too, for the use of medical marijuana, for the use of individual marijuana. He was arrested, or he was charged with having 47 pounds plus or minus an ounce or two.
And now, is this the August 6th?
Well, everything is that the August 6th incident?
In Kingston, yes.
It may very well have been. I'm not too sure of the date.
All right, very good, all right.
Okay, good. But you have you are very much interested in freedom. Freedom for, in your case, you're very much interested in the freedom as it affected the black people.
No, as it affects all people.
Oh, ultimately, but it started off with, but you know, charity begins at home and then it moves on. You know, I mean, we can't deny that.
All right, Shanti now. But I want to really get a little bit more into Joe's case here at Kingston. He's arrested. His patient, of course, is not given any respect. Was the patient arrested?
I don't think so.
So the patient is arrested. I understand that there was a lump on the patient's neck that was beginning to decrease as a result of the treatment with the cancer.
Dramatically.
With the hemp oil.
With the hemp oil. Which is not the hemp oil that you can get in a health food store. This is a distillate of marijuana that is, if you watch Run from the Cure.
You basically need high concentrations of THC, and hemp seed oil doesn't have what you need to cure cancer.
Right. In other words, or smoking grass is not going to do it for you.
Well, smoking grass does have THC. It's just that you destroy most of it when you burn it.
Yeah, well, I said it was. I didn't say why it was going to do it for you. You're right. It's absolutely true. But it has to be in concentrated doses, and that doesn't mean you take a lot. I mean, the distillate has a consistency of something like tar. It's really a very thick distillate, and when it's broken down, and if you take your dose would be like a quarter of a grain of rice, that size. So we're not talking about heavy.
A quarter of a grain of rice. Whoa.
That just shows you
not quite a mustard seed, audience, but that is small.
That is a powerful, powerful medicinal substance.
All right, so he's arrested. What happens with his case after he's arrested? Let's talk a little bit. What happens after he is arrested?
After he's arrested, he becomes his own. He becomes his own lawyer, and he writes his own briefs. He appeals to the courts, and so far, I mean, everybody who's listened to him outside of the court says he's going to be serving time, but he's still walking around free.
And so he's still free at this moment.
No, just a second. The plea that he got was a sweetheart deal. If he doesn't
That's
take
true.
the plea back,
That's very important.
Unless the judge is so upset that he even tried to take the plea back, that he then gives him something much more. But the plea was so soft. It was giving him 3 years. He didn't have to be TP tested because, you know, he was saying, look, going on probation is for sure a bust because this is my religion. This is what I do. And now that we're finding out that THC is beneficial, and cancer patients and a brain tumor patient said even after she took the oil, she felt the THC lodges in the fat cells and is used on a need-to-have basis, so that it's very medically beneficial. So why would you want to P-test somebody, or young kids and so on, to keep something out of them that's actually good? So when they have the probation, it's a sinister way of getting them to seemingly get less than all of these draconian many years in jail. But as soon as they violate, they're put into prison without even going through the court system again. Just bang, they're just railroaded into prison.
Yes, they are, and they are by the hundreds of thousands under the Rockefeller drug laws. So let us go quickly then down in this rabbit hole, and I want you to time travel with me, New York. I want you to time travel back to, that's the knock on the judge's door in New York, the knock on the judge's door in Pennsylvania, the knock on the judge's door in Massachusetts. It's the Fugitive Slave Act, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1852, being administered by units of the United States military. Their job is to hunt down those who are helping with runaway slaves. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Lynn Stewart who's a lawyer for the poor, the oppressed, and the downtrodden. It doesn't matter whether it's a judge or the African that you're after. You are hauled in by the U.S. military, operating on behalf of Southern planters. It is beginning to sound more and more like these days, more and more like we are back to 1852, that period in 1852, coming forward to the Civil War, when people were being rounded up by the hundreds of thousands. And for what reason? The slave, because the African was running, trying to have an inkling of freedom within the nation, and of course crossing the border to Canada, Mexico, out of the country. On the other hand, there were those who were just judges. I mean, they had no involvement really with the slave system in the sense that they were involved with trying to hide anybody. Their job was to be judges in courts.
Cool.
And there were lawyers whose job was to do what lawyers have been doing for centuries, and that is to defend their clients, guilty or not guilty, to provide the best defense for a client. And yet under this Fugitive Slave Act, these people became frightened and afraid and were therefore challenged not to carry out their assigned positions as judges and as legalists. So we're kind of entering this, with the Lynn Stewart case forward, we're kind of re-entering this old phase where we're beginning to ask, have we entered a police state? And that brings me to 127th and Frederick Douglass, where about 3 weeks ago, 4 young men were being sought by the police. They rolled up in their cars. 3 of those young men are sitting on their stoop, as is their legal right to citizens. Out front, they're not doing anything. They're sitting there with a grandmother who's in her 70s, sitting there with her grandchildren. The police get out, and summarily one runs up the stairs, another one assaults the young men, knocking the grandmother, slamming her onto the ground. And of course the argument was that she was in the way. She's in the way of an arrest being made. Now the question becomes, why was the police there? And why is it necessary for police to harass, hit, beat, bang, stomp, or anyway carry out a legal sentence on anyone? Police's job is to arrest, if they're going to arrest. And that could be done in ways with trained police. That does not mean the violation of people's physical bodies. And more it's the physical body, whether it's with the clubs and the fists and the feet or the gun. More and more, it's the physical body. So I wondered about this patient at Kingston who was sitting in the room with his doctor, not expecting anything other than medical treatment. And through the door comes the police. Arrest the doctor.
Well,
what happens to the patient?
It wasn't quite like that, Colia.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. He was, this has always been his religion. He's always felt it was a very good thing. And when he heard about the Rick Simpson story, Rick Simpson had a medical condition that nothing could heal, and finally discovered that cannabis helped. So he got a $125,000 settlement for his brain injury. And he used that to just give the oil away to everybody, because he also used it on his skin cancer, and the skin cancer went away. Now, he was always telling the officials, I'm growing marijuana in my backyard because it's healing cancer. So everybody in town knew about it. He gave it away to people so freely that there were so many examples of people who were being healed. So when Joe Barton, this was in Canada, in a little town in Nova Scotia. So when Joe Barton heard about it, he said, wow, let's try this. He knew what it was. It's called hash oil on the street. That's, it's an illegal underground substance, and it carries with it draconian prison sentences. But Rick Simpson called it hemp oil because you didn't smoke it, and his doctor, who refused to give him a prescription in Canada, they're harder to get than winning the lottery, said that taking it in an oil probably would be more medicinal, even though he couldn't justify why it wasn't legal when it was the only thing that was helping his tendinitis. So Joe Barton gave it to a Vietnam vet who had a huge tumor on his throat, was faced with an operation that would have definitely left him unable to talk, if even alive, and he couldn't talk anyhow because of the tumor. So the tumor went down as he was taking the oil, but it was really a jealous girlfriend that told them about the officials about the marijuana that was being grown. So once there was no more marijuana and hash oil, the patient's tumor started to get bigger, and then he eventually died. They had been tracking him, hoping to give the case to Governor Patterson to explain how New York, in their own laws, or in their own words, to justify getting rid of the Rockefeller drug laws and decriminalizing it. See, this is a tricky word, decriminalizing it. Said that hemp or marijuana or cannabis does little harm or no harm at all. But now we're all over to the other extreme, where it's not only doing little harm or no harm, it's curing some of the worst diseases. Cancer's only one of them. So that's the story. It wasn't that he was actually a doctor, it's just that he shared it.
All right, so he's sharing this hemp oil with a patient who needed it, individual who needed it.
Right, and now we know the judge has seen these suppressed studies because he's handed in a lot of paperwork. So my feeling is that the way the judge was holding him in dialogue with oral argument, that he was allowed to speak, whereas pot busts in the past, they just railroad you through the system and you can't even speak. They say, well, it's the law. Well, it's the law. Well, take it up with the legislature. And I know you're running for Senate, so take it away.
Thank you for that. I am running for the Senate. I want to be very clear that we're talking now about Joe Barton sitting in the courtroom before the judge. That's what Paula has just shared with us, and I think we're very clear that a judge is at last listening. We need to look at these Rockefeller drug laws, because these Rockefeller drug laws have criminalized thousands upon tens of thousands, especially young people in New York State and across, and laws like them across the country. And we just need to set them aside because, we have to deal with the fact, prisons are not places to raise children. Prisons are not places to house the homeless. Prisons should not be the place to treat the mentally insane. Prisons are not the place to rehabilitate, especially not New York and United States prisons. So the prison system itself needs to be examined. along with the entire police establishment. You know, when I was a child and I used to learn about police, you know, they used to tell me that the role of the police was to protect and defend. Mm-hmm. Of course, I was a black child in Mississippi, so they said, yeah, you try to stay away from them because your role may be a little different. Mm-hmm. But even at that, you know, you would sit in the classroom and you knew that they were there to protect the health and general welfare of the public. The health and general welfare of the public. Why do we need standing police armies? Shanti, let's talk a little bit. Why do you think we need standing police armies?
We don't. We don't. I don't believe we do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I can't see the need for a standing police army when it seems to me that if I got a crisis, I don't care whether it's a burglary or somebody trying to murder me or whatever the crisis may be, that's when I need the police.
That's right.
I don't need the police 24 hours a day walking in my neighborhood telling me that I can't stand in front of my house, I can't sit on my stoop, I'm talking too loud, turn your music down, especially when neighbors haven't complained. So I think we are really down to a point in the United States, and not just in New York. In New York, we see it because New York is a large urban center. I live in Harlem, in Sugar Hill, old Sugar Hill. The sugar's gone, but the hill's still there. Police are everywhere, and police do strange things. I was sitting in the laundromat one evening, and a young man was sitting outside. He was washing. He'd gone outside. He was standing there by the stoop. The laundromat has a set of about 5 or 6 steps that leads up to a little stoop and entry into the laundromat. When all of a sudden, first 2 police cars, and they just angled in, you know, like, these 2 cars, and the young man jumps, black man, and I could see his eyes roll. I said, now what are these cops ready to do? So I'm watching. They jump out and they immediately run up on him. And they don't just run up on him and say, young man, can I talk with you? No, no, no. It's like in your face, grab you, talk to you, run up on you. And he's trying to back. He's already into this little corner where the steps are, backed his back against the wall, and he's trying to talk, and you can see his fear, his total fright. These cops talk for about 10 minutes, then they just come carloads of policemen, carloads. Wow. And they all descend on this little narrow corner of 155th and St. Nicholas, well, in Edgecombe, and they are there for this young man. They surrounded him. And they're gaining his face, asking questions, and he's like, and so a young girl who was with him washing in the laundromat, I don't know whether she was his girlfriend or sister or what, she goes out because when she finally turned and saw it was the young man she was with, she runs out, you know, he's here with me, what's going on? And of course she's told to shut up, so she just leans on the rail of the laundromat, looking over on the top of his head, of course, the young man's head and the above the officers, as they intimidate and harass this young man. I stood in the window with a couple of other people because we want to be sure that we're witnesses. Mm-hmm. Didn't have a camera on me, not even my cell phone where I could take a picture of what was happening here. Didn't think when I left home I needed a camera or a cell phone in order to go up to the laundromat to wash some clothes.
Now you know.
Oh, now I know. Of course I know. And finally, I guess because we were in that window, because they kept looking up and we weren't moving. And we were obviously elders. They pulled off and got back in their cars and pulled away. The young man raced back against the wall, and so I moved out and I asked him, why were they here? And he said, they told me I looked like a man that robbed somebody down on 137 in Edgecombe. And I thought, what a hell of a run. You ought to have been up here with a contract. He needed a contract if he run that fast. So, you know, just unbelievable that they saw a young black man, and they just needed to have some fun, obviously, and they had it at our expense. Because everyone in that laundromat, both black and brown, Latins and browns who were in that laundromat, whites who were in that laundromat, we were all frightened out of our wits. We didn't know what was about to come down here. Because we hear stories about what police do, and now here we are in a laundromat and that's it. Another incident that occurred earlier in the year where a young white student who was a student at State University, well, CUNY, City University of New York. I was told by a young woman who is closely associated with the owner of the laundromat that the young man was there. So I talked with him, and he told me about an incident that had happened to him the week before. He was in the laundromat washing. He had a soda in a brown bag. So he stepped out on this same stoop of the laundry. That stoop is very popular.
Hello?
Found the stoop. Steps out on the stoop of the laundromat.
Hello?
Call her
Yes.
until she finishes. That's what I asked you to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
And so when he steps out on the
Finish your
stoop,
story.
he's also collared by the police, asking what was in his bag, and refused to tell him.
Hello?
So I'm going to talk with you. Just hold on, brother.
Yeah, just hold on.
Refused to talk with him, and they snatched the bag, and discovered it was a canned soda. When they discovered it was a can of soda, they tossed the soda into the street, just threw the whole can, and arrested him. Beat him, roughed him up.
No charge.
No charge. Let him go, but I mean no charge. And he was frightened to even take a lawyer. He was just frightened out of his wits. He wants to stay in college. He wants to be in school. He wants a democratized education system where he can finish up his college and be on about the business of building a career. Caller, I'm listening to you now.
Yes, hi. I'm a security guard, but I used to be a police officer. I'm familiar with Sugar Hill, and, I think a story like that is extremely one-sided and really unfair, and I think you know perfectly well that you could come up yourself with hundreds of examples when you see young people harassing police officers and being disrespectful, and I think to take one story and cherry-pick it is very insidious.
I don't want to cherry-pick. Hold on just a minute. I don't want to cherry-pick. I told you a story that I'm knowledgeable of.
But you told us a cliche. It was a stereotype, the same way this is a stereotype.
Caller, can you hear me, caller? Can you hear me? Hello, caller? Can the caller hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, what I want to say, first of all, is thank you for calling. I have wanted somebody from the police or security or whatever to start responding.
I can't hear. You're so distant. I can't hear.
Okay, you can't hear me. Oh, that's really a drag.
Well, let me talk with him, Paul.
Tell him, Coley, that I'm glad he called, and I want him to come down and sit in the chair next to you. And the most important thing is that we continue the dialogue because we're all human beings. Can you tell him that?
Yes. We're down in the rabbit hole, and Paula, Gloria's rabbit hole, and she wants you to first of all, thank you.
Well,
and I do thank you as well for calling. We do need all sides and all positions.
Okay.
And there's a chair here on my right. We would love for you to come and fill this chair today. Can you come down?
You got it, sister.
Can you come down?
This is the show I want.
Well, I don't know if I'm...
Please come down.
Well, if you can't come down, send someone down. Because we want all sides. But I want to be sure I'm only referring to the story that I know.
Yeah, but you know other stories.
I have not seen the other story.
That would contradict that story.
I have had many a time when police... Hey, I want you to listen. I want you to listen. There have been many times across my life when I have called the police, had needed police, and they have come and they have been very decent. But I'm not going to start telling lies.
Well,
I'm not going to start telling lies about police because I have seen the police in the most unrighteous places. Hold on, young man.
He left.
Most unrighteous places in Mississippi, Alabama, most unrighteous places in Chicago, most unrighteous places in D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia, New York, Newark, New Jersey, places, and I'm not just talking about downstate New York. I've lived in upstate New York almost 17 years. I'm talking about police. I've seen them at their best, and I should not even have to see one at its worst, but I have seen an abundance at their worst. So, police.
God bless you, Coley.
Yes.
Shanti, what do you want to say on this? Because I think you've got some energy here.
Oh, I surely do. But would you want to direct me a little bit more about what specifically you want me to react to?
The most important thing about this show is dialogue.
Okay. I also am glad that this young man called. I really am. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why he hung up. I think that it's very hard. I mean, he was proud of his work as a policeman, and apparently, I kind of suspect that he was one of the good guys, and one of the many good guys. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that he's a sensitive fellow who was being very defensive about what you were saying, and you were being fair, I thought. I thought you said, look, I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. I've seen more of the bad. Unfortunately, where it should be representative, if anything, of the good. Now, I know policemen personally. One of my neighbors forever lives on the same floor with me. She's a graduate in from the police force.
I don't know them just personally. I have a son who's a policeman.
All right, so we're on
Yes,
their side.
Yes.
We're not against them. Again, we are begging.
Granddaughter who's a policeman.
That's it. And I think that what we have to talk to is the necessity for sensitivity training for the police department. I mean that very seriously, because these guys who really, for the most part, I think there are deviants in there. I think there are sick policemen. But I think for the most part, just there are sick doctors, and I don't mean physically sick. I'm saying that these people who are doing things that we feel are really inappropriate at best and heinous at worst, just really bad stuff.
Well, I
need to be trained.
Need to be trained, but I'm questioning whether or not we need the abundance, the large numbers of policemen. Has New York City become the place where if you need a job on Long Island, you need a job in New Jersey, you need a job in Westchester County, that this is where you come to get a job, and the police needs a place to get a job. That's one. Two, for those we have, I agree with you, Shanti's right on target, is that we need thorough cultural training, because there are vast cultural differences between one group and the other here. So if a policeman is dealing with Chinese or Koreans or Asians, and not all Asians, because each group of Asians is different, culturally, have they been prepared to deal with these groups? Or maybe we should hire Asian policemen who are Chinese or Korean or East Indian or Filipino or Arab or Jew to do the policing in those areas where we have these community blocks. And where there are black communities and brown communities and red communities, maybe we ought to have policemen that look like black, brown, and red communities, hide from within the communities preferably.
Absolutely.
Because the cultural training is essential. We've been talking here today, down in this rabbit hole, New York, about the issues of, one, the Fugitive Slave laws, where people are being grabbed up because they are bringing good to the community. To treat a person for an illness, even if we disagree with the substance that's being used, but to treat the person for the illness, the use of marijuana, hemp oil, to treat an illness should not become a crime against the state. And young people standing on corners at laundromats in front of their homes or wherever they should not be crimes against the state. And the police should not be hired in such large numbers that they appear to be a police army and not there to protect the good of the community. We want good policemen. We love good policemen. I love my son. He's a policeman. I love my granddaughter. She's a policeman. My niece, she's a policeman. We love them. We want them to continue to be police.
And to live.
And in my case, well, it's because they have been trained at home. I will not tolerate hearing or seeing the kind of stuff that I see in especially urban communities in the United States that I saw as a child in Mississippi, down the rabbit hole.
And I want to thank you so much, because this was just spot on, and the chair got to be brought out, the empty chair, and Shanti emphasized the point that we want to keep the dialogue going.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're a terrific woman. I wish you lots of luck. I really, really
have you signed the petition?
Oh, well, I'll sign you. Got your petition?
I got my petition with me. Sign my petition, everybody.
I'll sign your petition. I even have a pen.
I got it right under the chair.
No, you just get everybody. You just walk around and get everybody here to sign it. We'll take your petition upstairs.
Oh, yes.
You should have said that on the program.
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't.
You couldn't
That's
do
illegal.
That.
Yeah,
no, that's illegal. That's
Manhattan neighborhood has been generous to me. I want to continue to be generous to it. Yes.
She's something, isn't she?
To marry you.
Oh!
Remember? You were so charming.
Okay.
Just apply for that position.
The first line you want to
all right, Dolly, you're done.
Yes.
do your signature.
Good, you're welcome.
The second line, you print your name.
Thank you, darling.
Over here, you put in your home address. You don't have to do the apartment number. Put in your home address. Put in, you got to spell out everything, no abbreviations. Here you put in, if you live in Manhattan, New York, New York, and then New York over here for the county. Don't put in Manhattan. People think Manhattan is the county. No, not Manhattan.
And then New York here?
Yeah, New York is the county. As long as you live in New York City, not in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Kings County. Staten Island, Richardson County. You're going to get a lot of flack.
You think I'm going to get flack?
No, I just think I think people are going, well, I was surprised he was watching.
You can't believe who watches, but I
Not that he got upset. I was surprised he was watching. That's good.
See, this is so rich, isn't it, Shanti?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this is
She's great.
yeah.
That means you're going to get more and more folk watching because they tell each other.
There's two people I trust to stand, well, actually you too, to stand in as a host for me. That's Colia and Posar.
Yeah.
Because I have learned, it is an economic problem ultimately.
Oh, without a question, yeah.
Granddaughter or grandson's
Yeah.
Did you sign her petition?
Yeah, sure.
Oh no, you have to spell these out. You can't. This is the
I
thing.
I'll do it.
Ease it in there nicely so that it
I
works
will.
in. They will not accept it. It's the craziest thing on earth.
Oh, yeah, it's great. But Rick says, you know, when the public finds out about the cancer cure, they're not going to be in a very good mood.
And you know, you're talking about kids taunting the police. I haven't seen any kids in my lifetime since Birmingham and Selma when we were demonstrating taunting police. They're scared to taunt because Sean Bell got wasted.
You mean
And he didn't taunt.
They did taunt them?
Oh, you know, we would dance in front of the kids, would do everything because we had the international press there. So if the international press there, the kids weren't scared. The kids would just tap dance, shake their butts. We don't mind the bull, and they would shake their butt.
Is there any way we can get those kids that you wanted to have on the show?
Yeah, I can get those kids for the show, but I needed their lawyer. I needed their lawyer. Their lawyers have to clear them.
Okay.
And the lawyers will want to come with them. Oh, yeah, they will. So, but that's the problem.
I want to do the civil liberties stuff.
In your community. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the home is entitled to maximum protection from police searches and seizures. Specifically, the court has ruled that even if an officer has probable cause to believe that something illegal is going on inside your home, with a few exceptions, he may not enter without a search warrant. In many instances, people without thinking invite the police into their homes. Consenting to a police officer's request to enter or search your home automatically makes the entry or search legal. You should never consent.
Cars pull up outside, so everyone chill out. Do you know where Valerie's at? All right. Valerie? I'm out of here. Valerie? Do you mind if we come in? Sure.
Hi, do you live here?
No, I don't live here. I can get her for you. Valerie? Hi, let me guess. You're Valerie. Do you live here?
Hi. Yeah, I do. Is everything okay? I mean, I know we were like really loud, and I'm really sorry. We'll keep it down.
We stopped by because we got a noise complaint from a neighbor. We just wanted to make sure that everything was okay here. Looks like you've had a real wild party going on. From the looks of it, a lot of people are drinking and maybe doing drugs. What you got there, Mark?
Wow, look at this. Smells fresh. This is a nice little piece of glass sculpture you have here, Valerie. Is this yours?
Yeah, it's mine, but we weren't doing anything wrong.
Valerie, honey, we appreciate your honesty. You just tell us the truth and everything will be okay. How many drinks have you had tonight?
I don't know, maybe a few beers, I guess.
Everyone here's 21, right? Valerie, sweetheart, is anyone here under 21?
No, everyone's over 21.
How old are you, Valerie?
21?
Do you mind showing us your ID, please?
I'll be 21 in a couple of weeks.
Valerie, you've just lied to us. Do you know that I could arrest you for that, for obstructing justice and falsifying a statement to a police officer? Now, it looks to me like you've been hosting an alcohol party here with underage drinkers. And you've already admitted to supplying that party with marijuana, which makes you a drug dealer. Don't you know you can go to prison for that?
Why are are you guys doing this to me? This isn't fair. Nobody's hurting anyone.
Valerie, no one is doing anything to you. But if you help us, we can help you. I need you to listen to me carefully. Are you listening?
Yes.
Because there's marijuana here, we're going to have to bring in the canine unit to search the house. Now, the dogs sometimes cause a lot of damage and tear things up. But if there are drugs in this house, they will find them, and then you'll be in big trouble. But here's where you can help us and also help yourself. Now, if you show us where the rest of the pot is in this house, we'll put in a good word for you. If you don't, we've got no choice but to bring in the dogs. Valerie, do you understand your choice?
Yes.
It's up to you. Which is it?
Follow me. It's upstairs. It's in the drawer. That's it. That's all of it.
Are you sure? There are no other drugs on the premises.
I swear to God, that's everything.
Do either of you know anything about this?
No. They didn't know about it. It's all mine. Nobody knew it was here.
Valerie, we appreciate your honesty. You did the right thing. You seem like a really sweet girl, which is why we hate to have to do this. Go ahead and put your hands behind your back.
Wait, you're arresting me?
You're under arrest for felony possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
Wait, this isn't fair. You promised if I helped you, you wouldn't arrest me.
That is not what I said.
Yes, you did.
Listen, it's not our fault that you chose to break the law. You brought this on yourself.
Oh, Dad, I wasn't...
Valerie will get a second chance to do it right. But as for the rest of you, you'd better be prepared to assert your rights and protect yourself in this situation on the first try.
If you're gonna hit that thing, do it at your own house. Don't do it here, okay?
No problem.
Thank you, sweetie.
Good evening, officers. What seems to be the problem?
We got a noise complaint from a neighbor. We just wanted to make sure everything's okay here. Sounds like you turned the music down, which is a good start. Please keep the volume down so we don't have to come back.
I promise we'll keep it down, officers. I apologize for the inconvenience.
While we're here, we need to do a routine checkup to make sure everything's okay inside. Do you mind if we take a look?
Why?
When you opened the door, I smelled something funny. Is anyone smoking marijuana in there?
I don't smell anything, officers. How can I help you?
We just need to do a required routine check. Now, if everything's okay inside, could you go ahead and let us take a look?
Everything's under control, officers. Look, I know you're both just doing your jobs, but without a search warrant, I can't let you inside.
Should I go ahead and get a search warrant?
No, I think everything's under control here. We're counting on you to keep the noise down. If we get one more complaint, we're going to have to come back with a paddy wagon. Can we trust you to keep it down?
I promise we'll keep it down, officers. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Have a good night.
Keep it down and have a good night.
So long.
Cops are gone. Let's party.
Oh, whoa, hey, I don't think so, fool. Listen, if you're gonna hang out here, you're gonna have to keep it down for the rest of the night. If not, you gotta go elsewhere. Understand?
That sucks.
It's better than getting busted.
That's right, Valerie. Getting busted is no party. You protected yourself and your friends from arrest by knowing and exercising your rights. That's what being a good neighbor and citizen is all about. Let's take a closer look at the ways Valerie handled herself in the two parallel scenes you just saw. At the start of the first scene, Valerie was negligent in performing her hostess duties. She was completely unaware of who was entering and leaving her house and paid no attention to her guests' activities. Anytime you host a loud party, you're exposing yourself to a likely police visit. And as often happens with house parties, a naive partygoer is the one who invites the police into your house. So be mindful of other entrances to your home, because police will often enter through less guarded side or back door entrances.
A lot of people are drinking and maybe doing drugs.
Whoops! How did the officer find that? Because it was in plain view, that's how. If an officer is legally invited inside your home, any illegal items that are out in the open are fair game for the officer to seize as evidence, which can lead to your arrest.
I'll be 21 in a couple of weeks.
Valerie, you've just lied to us.
Never lie to the police when questioned. If the officer asks you a question that you know the answer to, but don't want to reveal because it may be used against you, you do not have to answer. You are better off not answering than lying and having the officer arrest you or use it against you later. Valerie gets off to a much better start in the second scene. She is attentive to her guests' needs, and she's careful to keep evidence of possible illegal activity out of sight. Valerie is always ready to greet guests at the door, and she takes advantage of the all-important peephole. Upon seeing the officers, Valerie greets them outside and closes the door behind her.
What seems to be the problem?
We just need to do a required routine check. Now, if everything's okay inside, could you go ahead and let us take a look?
Everything's under control, officers. Look, I know you're both just doing your jobs, but without a search warrant, I can't let you inside.
Again.
Without a search warrant, I can't let you inside.
Even without a warrant, the police could enter by claiming that they smelled marijuana in the few seconds the door was opened. But in most instances, Valerie's refusal to consent in the absence of a warrant will keep the police from entering if they don't have another independent reason to do so. Before we recap what we've learned, we must point out the few situations where your constitutional protections against warrantless searches do not apply. The first two are common knowledge. Be aware that airport security personnel do not need a warrant or probable cause to search you or your belongings before boarding any commercial airplane. So remember that anytime you enter a security area to board a commercial airplane, you consent to a search. The same exception applies whenever you cross international borders. Therefore, anytime you cross the border, you consent to a search. Private security personnel, who outnumber police officers in the United States by 3 to 1, generally have a right to search you as a condition of entry into private property. In such cases, it's up to you to decide if a search is worth the price of admission. As long as you're free to walk away, the security personnel do not pose a threat to your constitutional liberties. Keep in mind that private security guards can turn any illegal items found on you over to the police. So if security guards ever try to search you after you've entered a club or concert venue, for example, do not consent and insist on leaving the premises immediately. Usually the police will not formally arrest you for a minor traffic stop or a refusal to consent to a search. But if you're formally arrested, police may search you without a warrant. Now let's repeat what could be the 3 most important lines you may ever have to deliver in your entire life.
Officer, I do not consent to any searches.
Officer, am I free to go?
Officer, I have nothing to say until I speak with my lawyer.
If you've been paying close attention throughout this video, you're now a more intelligent citizen and are more prepared to protect yourself and assert your constitutional rights during police encounters. But do you really think that this one-time viewing will fully prepare you for the pressure and confusion of an actual police encounter a month or a year from now? Review this tape often. It takes diligent preparation to overcome the natural fear of standing up for yourself in the face of authority. Become a student of police encounters. For additional online resources, visit the American Civil Liberties Union website at www.aclu.org. and the Flex Your Rights website at www.flexyourrights.org. And consult your local ACLU office as well. Remember that laws often differ from state to state. Finally, don't keep this information secret. As a good citizen, it's your responsibility to pass it on to your friends and family to make sure their rights are protected. Rights mean nothing if you don't know about them. A copy of this video may be one of the most valuable gifts you could ever give. To order copies of Busted, The Citizen's Guide to Surviving Police Encounters, visit the Flex Your Rights website. Now, go flex your rights.
The sound on that. I still hear the ACL ruling. Just pull that down to the computer. Yeah. This is Paula Gloria, and this show is going farther down the rabbit hole because we like to go into topics more deeply. So while Shanti is pulling down the computer lever, we're hoping that we're going to get calls from you. Ideally, we would really like you to come in. So I think Shanti found the computer lever to bring that down. What I do is I take important shows off the internet, shows that I think should be shared with our local Manhattan community in the hopes that people will call in. So Shanti, can you put up the CG so people see the number? It is 212-757-1483. We're coming to you from the closed studio. When we're coming to you from the open studio, it's a different number. So you could keep a couple of those numbers down, and if you recognize the studios, you'll know which ones to call in. So Shanti, since nobody's calling in, you want to have a discussion with me about what I did in housing court? Maybe change one of those cameras so that the CG isn't going over my head. Maybe you can do it camera 1 or 2. And you can take it off until that time. Give me a lot of headroom so that it goes live August 19th, because if you're seeing this show any time other than August 19th, you don't want to be calling in because it's, you know, I'm not going to be here about this topic. The American Civil Liberties Union work is very important. It's important to understand what civil liberties are. There are limitations to civil liberties because those are liberties given by the government as a privilege. And because they are given by the government as a privilege, they can be taken away.
Now let's repeat what could be the 3 most important lines you may ever have to deliver in your entire life.
Officer, I do not consent to any searches.
Officer, am I free to go?
Officer, I have nothing to say until I speak with my lawyer.
If you've been paying close attention throughout this video, you're now a more intelligent citizen and are more prepared to protect yourself and assert your constitutional rights during police encounters. But do you really think that this one-time viewing will fully prepare you for the pressure and